that I have to very seriously choose my words carefully because we live in a day and age where everything is being watched, censored. And so we're going to talk about what's going on with the UFC. And I want to bring in the fact that we are going through the fourth turning. Our economy, our country, the entire world is reeling right now because of massive changes that we have never seen on a global scale ever in history. That's why you want to be ready for what's coming, because I want you to take advantage of this. What is going on in a nutshell is the UFC has signed a deal with Bud Light. And you're about to witness either a massive boycott, which can cripple the UFC, or you'll see nothing happen. And what that will tell you in 2024 is which direction our country is heading. You see, throughout history, every time an economy or a civilization built up and became a world superpower, as it crashed, there are a few things that are very typical of every civilization. Let's use the Romans as an example. The Roman Empire was massive. It was the biggest empire ever at that point. It stretched all over Europe. It stretched all over the world. They did a handful of things. At the end, they were feasting on the fact that they were so wealthy because they were taking over country after country. They started to exploit countries and rob them of their wealth. And what they did is, with that wealth, they started to glorify their chefs. It's actually in historical documents that have captured the way the Romans spent their money. They spent it on insanely over-the-top food, right? They had social programs where they were literally spending money for people not to have to work. It's the first time ever in history that they had social programs like this. Their sports got bloodier, right? Think about how quick, there used to be movies like Bloodsport and things like that, where you'd watch movies with Jean-Claude Van Damme about, being in another country where there's these underground fight clubs. You can see that on pay-per-view TV now. As a matter of fact, it went from pay-per-view now to where it's not really. I mean, it's just in your face. People were thirstier and thirstier for bloodier sports. The family unit was broken down, and diversity in the Roman times was celebrated. It was a celebrated fact that perversions were the norm and acceptable, right? And what happens is, under its own weight, under its own wealth, the people got thirstier for blood, thirstier for diversity, destroyed their family units, destroyed their morals, and it imploded. Now, throughout history, we've seen countries build up and countries collapse, always having that common theme. And we are seeing that in America right now. Type 1 if you understand this and you agree with this. Type 2 if you think that I'm off base, because I don't think I am. Now, this story is at a Zero Hedge, and it's entitled, and this is why it's very important. I'm going to read the story about the UFC and Bud Light. So it sounds like you guys are agreeing with me, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry. Type 3 if you think that the UFC is going to topple and that the American public are about to speak. And as quick as Bud Light fell, and then you saw, of course, Bill Gates invested, right? Type 3 if you think they're going to fall. Type 4 if you don't think they are. And this is why it's very important to watch this. If they do not fall, if the American public cares more about blood than their morals, we've lost our country. But if they are willing to set aside And I enjoy watching UFC. I'm going to be honest with you. I can't get over how people will destroy their bodies to do that, to be honest with you. Boxing, I think, is still an incredible sport, right? But I can't imagine when people fight like that and then shake hands and they're friends after. I just can't fathom it, right? But if people care more about blood, and I'm just going to tell you right now, I am done watching the UFC. It's over for me, right? That's where I stand. And I say that because you need to know I'm not going to skirt around a topic. But if people do not put aside their desire to go watch a sport because of an agreement they signed, we've lost our country. Okay? Boycott UFC calls soar after mega sponsorship deal with Bud Light. This is out of Zero Hedge. The Ultimate Fighting Championship, or UFC, and Anheuser-Busch InBev have entered into a multi-year marketing agreement, making Bud Light the official beer of the Mixed Martial Arts Promotional Organization. This sponsorship is UFC CEO Dana White and company's biggest one yet, and has already sparked boycott calls from UFC fans. Type 5 if you're going to be boycotting. I'm just curious. I want to see what you guys think. Now, here's the thing, too. I always will tell you where I stand, because I'm going to tell you this. All of us were born to be leaders. We are all made to be leaders. But very few people pick up the mantle of leadership and run with it. And I think that every single one of you that are saying right now that you're going to boycott, I think it's time to pick up that mantle and run with it, because very few people ever do. A good leader does the right thing when everyone's watching and when no one's watching. And that is why I make a stand, and I make it public. People don't have to agree with me. That's fine. That's where I stand. I will no longer watch the UFC. Even to the point where if they pulled out of this deal, I still would not watch. And this is why. Dana White's a smart dude. Matter of fact, the whole foundation of the UFC really started where I live. And so I used to see the fighters like Liddell and stuff. He used to bounce at the bars we used to frequent when we were in college, going to school. And he's a smart dude. He knows exactly why Bud Light sold for such a low price to Bill Gates, why he was able to pick up that company. He's seen the Americans' reaction, and he chose money over it. It was not an intelligent move. And I really hope that Americans do it in a fact that it's swift and fast, because that'll give me a lot more hope in our country and what's coming in 2024 as far as the elections. You see where I'm going with this? See, that's very vital right now. That tells you if the UFC goes down, it tells you who's voting for who. And I can't say it out loud. So it says Anheuser-Busch wrote in a press release that the new multi-year marketing partnership will begin on January 1st. The brewer will become the official beer partner of UFC, and Bud Light will be plastered on broadcasts, signage across arenas, fight week activities, social media channels, weigh-ins, press conference, and much, much more. If that reporter from Newsweek that picked up my video that I did at Angel Stadium about Bud Light is watching, use whatever you want from this, because Ninja Nation is big. Ninja Nation is a force to be reckoned with. I've never been more proud to be a part of something in my entire life. All right. I have filmed from this spot for 3.5 years, never with a problem. And I start talking about this and my feed's getting disrupted. Sorry. I claim clear signal over this broadcast in the name of Jesus Christ. Nothing's going to get this stopped. It says here, Bud Light, it's not a joke. Right here, this is their Twitter feed. We're proud to announce that starting in 2024, we will once again be the official beer sponsor of the UFC. The UFC was in a previous sponsorship with Modelo, which has since become America's top-selling beer. Think about how much power the UFC has when their big sponsor just rises to glory. Now, also one thing that changed with Modelo is that everybody not drinking Bud Light anymore, right? And this is after Bud Light sales implode following its disastrous woke advertising. And remember these pictures. That's still the case. They're still having a hard time selling these beers. Now, I'm going to be honest, I hope that the UFC has a hard time selling tickets. Because I believe in this country. Because I believe in you. If you agree with this, I would ask you to share this video. Because I think it's very vital and important that people see the reason why sheep are the dumbest animals on earth. And in the Bible, God calls us sheep. It's not a compliment. Is because sheep are the only animal that don't have a leader. There's no leading to sheep. They follow each other. That's why they follow each other off cliffs. And that's why I think that making a stand for what's right in our country and why our country became great was because of great men and women that built this country. And they would be rolling over in their graves if they saw what is going on in this country right now. Now, the other thing that people need to understand, these cycles, San Francisco sold its soul to Satan in the mid-'80s. By then, there was all these pride movements and it moved out throughout our country like a toxic. Look at us, we're sinning. Now they are saying that they're coming for our children. We need to make a stand. And that's why sheep are so dumb, because they follow each other. And that's why I believe that you and I need to stand up and say, this is not right. So I'm excited for the future, or the lack thereof, of the UFC. Because I actually do believe, if I'm wrong and nothing happens and the sales don't collapse and that company stays moving, then we're in serious times in our country. Because we've just walked away from everything. I bet you will see fighters that have amazing conviction. Let me tell you a story about someone I know. I used to be a youth leader at our local youth group. And one of the youths there, his name was Tim. Thank you, Michelle, for the super chat. Tim was a fine, upstanding young man. He had a big family. And all of the kids in this family went to this church. Tim was a UFC fighter. He used to beat the snot out of Chuck Liddell before Liddell became the world champion. Tim was in my youth group, and he said he wanted to be a professional fighter. I watched him become a professional fighter. And when our country was attacked on 9/11, he gave up everything to join the military. Years later, I saw Tim on the cover of Time magazine, or one of those magazines, I don't remember the name, holding an American flag in Saddam Hussein's home. They just conquered. His last name is Kennedy. He came back after making a massive sacrifice to his career, and he came back and he crushed it. I got to see him as a child grow up to the leader that he is today. I believe that you're going to see fighters walk away from the UFC for their beliefs, just like Tim did when 9/11 happened. Those are the people that I want to be friends with. And you don't have to be a UFC fighter to stand up right now and make great change. You don't even have to be rich. You don't have to be anything. You just have to live by your convictions. So that's why I wanted to do this video today. You know, every time I do a video that has a controversial topic, it gets, the channel gets smacked. And a lot of people said, you just got to stop doing it. I can't. Because a leader does what's right when everyone's watching and when no one is watching. Don't forget that. I hope you guys have a great day. The Economic Ninja is out.